just want to encourage holding the applause so that we can continue and proceed. Thank you.
My name is Randy Manning. I'm a board member from the Kirtland area. This problem started many years ago. And many years ago, when this problem started, it has escalated to this point. And I hold it responsible for that, the Pet Department and the Navajo tribe. Because several years ago, the Navajo tribe and the Pet Department were to get together to discuss the New Mexico Indian Education Act and Navajo Title X. And to this point, I don't think that's happened. So we have two governments, and we want to come together as a government agency and discuss this. When this problem has been out there for years, and the Pet Department has closed their eyes to it. So, Secretary Skandera, your department owns part of the responsibility for where we're at today. The creation of the district you ask about, is it fair to give them startup cost money? And for both of them to give startup cost money. I remind you that every time you create a charter school by the state, you give them startup cost money every time. And I would like to know how many charter schools you've started up with money to give them startup costs over the past 2 years. And then they get small school funding each year because of their size. The district has an unsurmountable problem of trying to educate 3 separate communities. And as 20 years on the board, I can tell you that is a problem that won't get solved. Because each area has a different set of values. It was mentioned earlier about our immersion program that is going on. But the one thing they didn't mention to you is that when asked the superintendent, what are the goals for this program? The superintendent in a board meeting says, we have no goals. We have no plans. We're not sure where this is going yet. And last night, we had a parent who informed the board that students that have been in this program for 2 years now are now down to 5 students. And that, I think, is because parents understand the need for the English language. But our district has students in a Navajo program with no English, no goals, and no guidelines. And this is good education philosophy. Another thing we need to think about is the mindset of our educators and our administrators. When asked about this program, why it didn't meet state standards or show anything to help students meet state standards, an administrator who presented here tonight said, well, we haven't made AYP yet anyway, so why? Or, what happens if the state passes a law that says if you can't read at 3rd grade level, you stay back? Well, the state will just have to give us a waiver for that program. The differences in attitude towards education between Shiprock and Kirtland are immense. Thank you.
Give tribe the right to tax, but the tribe in good faith said 25% of their coal servants would go into a New Mexico permanent fund for education. That's what the Vice President is talking about when he says government to government. Our leaders did that in good faith. The reason why I know that, I was involved very directly with this. And what this does is, it gives the personal property tax relief a great benefit. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Glenn Avery, Senior, a resident out of Kirtland for 20 years. Prior to that, I lived in Shiprock for 20 years. And I like to say that I've been a busy man in my younger days. I've got 34 grandchildren. 7 of them are great-grandchildren. So when we talk about education, I do have an idea about what it could take and what it does take. So with that in mind, I thought that I should be saying. I am against splitting the school district. I was approached some time back at my house, in my own house, with a petition signing. So I made reference to the fact when I lived in Shiprock at one time, what was taking place between the two districts or the two schools. How come we have 300 students over here, 700 students over here? The 300 student facility was getting more money. I was involved with the architectural field too. We built an auditorium back in the 70s. I see another one being built in the same area. So my contribution to the community has been in that area. We have designed roads, we have done things. So, but when I was talking earlier about being approached in my own home, I felt very uncomfortable with it. And a few things that I brought up to the person that came to my house. And I tried to brush that person off. But I couldn't do it, being handicapped. I couldn't throw that person out if it's going to be getting physical. But in due time, I did sign the petition. And when I did sign the petition, I told my children and my grandchildren about it. And they called me Benedict Arnold, whoever he was. So I started thinking about it. And I went over to a couple of board meetings. And what I've seen over there, I did not care for. Now wait a minute, I must have made a mistake. So I go back again another time. The same thing's happening with this one individual. And if that person is acting that way all the time, not all the time, if a person acts that way, I made it a point, I said, I don't want that person to represent me. So with that, I'd like to say I want that petition that I have signed to be rescinded. So it says 60% of the numbers. I'm sure there are others in the group that have. Thank you.
Yani şey adnek hadisi dobayan sında sızar ara hutmuş dobayan sında şarçınar so kegi benina şıza dobayan sındı World War II ya da akibone da ki joka da izabe ke hadisli nebzar to the nebzar ye yana tyoshi di kabitana ayuni edas zoya da il kharo fodo sta attention nas also she take over da yilande ako ebinina shino bayan sında sızar to hadan ege bayan sında to şarçın da alta o kırdan just talk da alta adon da isthala not only nezdo adon talk da alta şarçın da adon da isthala adon nikil taker ininidle kırdan ne de araban ses kesa not only nezdo adon ni kol kapnan adon has hani daha yödansın da jobbalansın Deje administration is unimportant. A can session, hala shit as not in a shashanza. Arje curtain, net for the Jama or cut that I over out Bahas at the curtain, what the non added, I said Bahas Ahodani. Kadesha Hada, I know the Ghana region that you told it, I don't ahead of. Kojito nadajno doesn't know. Eshe in ya kudo ashkijeleni njono haje no hamata pichoda ini onhojish. At ishin get da elemeni nasa hodno. See the na opposite loya and adajno. Tone na ne نخاتشن دا خاتن هيغانيدا بني دا هيغان او ادو خاتن كدنادا اروني يا يا باسا دا هجسو نخاتشن راز دا ادو خانس شدو الخاتا شاجو باسان بهجو باينشن شاياسن ادو ادا بلقانا نيله اصلا يستسزنيله عليك اوش تخش ناجا للانسوي ادو باسام نشلو أقولوا أبعد أني كهذا جد إيدا لا عندك يصير لقدر إيدا ستاني خد أسي أقول إيدا خد إيدا نخان خاستخين داس باكي نهزا بك هذا سلكي نتيجة دون خطأ إيدا دون خطأ دسن لبحقان بجننكي دو بين خطأ جد أبدا أجينا أسس خدا يدون شاید avances که زیاد چنین شلون آشین خواهد توی توزن یه نهی خواه آدم نه که تا بسست آدی دو دندی یه پذیرتی نهی سازن ایده بک آدیست نینسن شه اکو آدو شاید چند دایش خواهد اوکی هنسن آیس باکی هنسن ایده خود ده نه زادو بنی تنها زادو آدو بداش دود نه دودیست نسن که
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, translation. She didn't state what her name was, but she started out by saying that I'm not ashamed of how I dress, and I'm not ashamed of my language. I am going to speak to you in Navajo. I want to note that the Navajo language was used during the World War II, and that is why we enjoy our freedom today. And I'm not ashamed of who I am. I have grandchildren who attend Shiprock schools and also Kirtland schools, and have graduated from them, including grandchildren. I don't think anything negative about Kirtland schools or Shiprock school. I am thankful that the administrative officer was taken to Shiprock, where it was easier for her. She is from Sanasti, and when she came to Kirtland on school-related issues, I was told to go to Shiprock, and she's not experiencing that anymore. Anglo should not be angry because of what has taken place, and that an administrative office should be set up in Kirtland as well. That can be done. There should not be any problems doing that. And why are we arguing? I am a humble Navajo woman, and she doesn't understand why in Anglo society that man was put first. Again, she stressed the Navajo language, that this is why the war was won, and we should remember that she uses corn pollen and the traditional paraphernalia as she has spoken before you today.